Welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast, hosted by Kristen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey, y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Clark. The Collide Kids Podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I am so glad that you're listening today. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. Hey, if this is your first time listening, I'm glad you're here too. I just want to say welcome. I hope you keep coming back for more. Be sure to listen to the end of every episode. That's where we have the kids only segment where kids just like you can be on the podcast. Well, I want to encourage you, if you have not already, to head over to whatever podcast app you're using and leave a rating and a review. It'll just take a couple seconds, but when you do, it really does help other people find out about the show. And I love reading your feedback and what you think about the show. Well, I am so excited about our guest today, but before we get to that, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you have a pet? If you have a pet, raise your hand. Oh, I really wish I could see if your hand was raised right now. Well, if you do have a pet, I think you're really going to enjoy this episode, especially if you have a dog. That's what my family has. We have a dog. We have a puppy. He's a terrier mix and his name is Arlo. And he's so sweet and energetic and he gets into everything. He drives us crazy, chewing up all the stuffed animals and shoes. And he tears up paper into little pieces of confetti everywhere. And sometimes he gets a little wild and runs around. So I am super excited to talk with my guest today. Justin Coffey put his love for God and spreading the gospel with his passion for training dogs. And he started a ministry called Extreme Obedience, which is dedicated to spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. They blend humor with simple and timeless biblical truths through the use of their highly skilled dogs. Justin and his family live in Texas, and currently they work with over 14 dogs. I think you guys are really going to love this conversation with my friend, Justin Coffey. Well, Justin, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids podcast today.
Oh, man, I'm excited to be with you guys today.
Yeah, this is so great. I met you at a conference last month, and I am so fascinated with what you do. Would you just share with our listeners what your job is and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I got the coolest job in the world. I get to work with dogs every single day.
Puppies.
And so, yes, puppies. I actually have a litter of puppies on the ground right now. They were born 2 weeks ago. So we have a ministry, a nonprofit called Extreme Obedience. We travel all over the country. In fact, this week we're in West Texas. We just finished 8 public school programs.
Wow.
We talk about, in our public schools, we talk about Champions of Characters, our public school program. And we use the dogs to illustrate that. I've been a dog trainer since I was 18 years old. I was also a pastor for 20 years. About 7 years ago, God put both of those together. And we've been traveling now full time 7 years with our dogs and my family. And then we're getting ready. Today's Wednesday, so we're getting ready to do a big outreach event. We call it a free dog show in the community where we're at. So all the kids that we did the school program, we invited them to a new different dog show tonight at the church, and then we'll share the gospel tonight.
Awesome.
At the church that we're partnering with here in this area. So that's what I get to do. I get to work with dogs and train them and they do different tricks and elements, and they do lots of agility pieces and lots of things like that. So we're always adding new stuff to our shows. So.
That is so cool. Okay, I'm so excited. I have a dog who is upstairs and probably going to start barking in a minute because he can't be with us. But before we get into that, because this is a show for kids, I always like to ask my guests to tell me a joke. So do you have a joke for us today?
So I'm a dad, so I have a bunch of lame, probably dad jokes.
Okay.
But since I'm a dog trainer too, so we're going to have a lame dad joke, dog joke.
Okay.
And so what do you call a dog that sweats a lot?
I don't know.
A hot dog.
A hot dog. That's true. That's true. I like it. I like it.
That's my lame joke.
I like it. I like it.
My dog joke. My two daughters, they both roll their eyes every time I tell jokes.
Yes,
so.
That's good. I like that.
So.
Okay, let's talk about this because I find this very fascinating what you do. You train dogs, and you said you've been doing it since you're 18. How did you get started in this?
So really cool story. Dogs actually changed my life. I actually have a story. A dog actually saved my life. It's a long story, but I was actually drowning in a lake training dogs, and dog swam out and saved my life. And so that's not how I got started, but that's kind of dogs have literally saved my life, changed my life. But so I was just searching, looking for what to do. I was a big outdoors guy, big duck hunter. And so I got my first dog when I was 18 and just began to train that dog. And God really began to show me himself through the training of the dogs and their obedience to me as their teacher and trainer and how we need to be obedient to him. And they're not always obedient, but we're not always obedient either. But he still loves us and cares about us. We still spend time together and things like that. So my relationship with the dogs reflects our relationship with God. And that's really changed my life and literally saved me and put me on this path and trajectory. I got called to ministry shortly after that. I was still training dogs, but went into youth ministry and pastor. And about 7 years ago, I was training in the field one day and I didn't hear an audible voice, but it was pretty close to it. And God said, you need to use this for me. And so we launched this ministry 7 years ago, and it's just been incredible. It's just been totally incredible. I tell people all the time, I never would have dreamed I'd be doing what I get to do right now, but I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
And that's where you know you're in God's, what we call the sweet spot.
Yeah.
That's where you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. I believe that. And I believe too that God takes all the things that we've gone through in our lives, even some of the bad things or some of the random things you're like, why am I learning this? Or why am I going through this? And God puts it all together in such an amazing way to use for his glory. And so I love that you get to do that and that you're working with dogs. That's not a typical ministry outlet for a lot of people to serve God with working with dogs.
But they see, it's crazy. People see, they put themselves in the way that we present it. They put themselves in the place of the dog. And it's a visual of how we should respond to God and have obedience to him. Yeah. And it's just, these dogs break down so many walls and so many barriers because everybody loves a dog. And the conversations that we have over these dogs just off stage is incredible. We've just this year since January, we give all glory to him. This is all him, but we've seen over 1,300 salvations through the ministry.
Wow.
And we've been in we're pushing over 200 schools already this year, sharing the message in schools is strong. It's talking about being champions in life and overcoming anxiety and depression, which is really overtaking our kids and our students. I mean, they're struggling with that so bad. And it's just when they can see that, like this morning I shared with 600 junior high students. They were 7th and 8th grade students, and you could have heard a pin drop in the room. And you don't get that many kids together, and you can't barely talk to them. Right. But they were listening and they were tuned in. And it's because of the dogs. And it's because they see themselves, and these dogs are overcoming all kinds of obstacles. We put them through all kinds of obstacles, and we're talking about them overcoming these fears and overcoming anxiety and how to be a champion in life. Because these are all of our dogs have titles and championship titles, and they have all these ribbons and awards they've won, but that really doesn't matter. All they want is our love and our affection. So that's what God wants. So
yeah, I grew up with cats. We had cats when I was growing up, and so when I got my first dog when I was like in my 20s, and in that I would go out to get the groceries from my car and I would bring in a few bags and my dog would greet me and he'd be so excited I was there. And then I'd have to walk back out to go get more groceries and I'd come back out and he'd greet me again, just like I like. Exactly. I love that. I love the attention and the, even if you're gone for 10 seconds, you know, they're still so excited to see you. And so, yes, I love having happy dogs around my life.
Yeah. The cool thing about a dog is, and the difference between dogs and cats, I tell people this all the time, you know, a cat, you take care of it, you feed it. Their thought is they must be God. That's how they feel. But a dog, you take care of it, you feed it. They think you must be God. Right. And it's so true. It really is. So true. It's all about, the dog is all about you. Well, the cat's all about itself. You know, it's all about what can you do for me? And the dog's like, okay, what can I do for you?
Yes, that's so true. So speaking of dogs, I have a dog. I have a puppy. And so I was hoping today you could give me some tips about how to train my puppy because he's a little wild. He's a little energetic.
How old is he?
He is, he's almost a year. So he's like 10 months.
Okay, perfect. So we tell people all the time, you know, we start training our dogs when they're 8 weeks old.
Okay.
But it's never too, you know, the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks is not right. You know, dogs are always learning. They may be set in their ways. It may be harder to teach them when they're older, but that preaches too, by the way. Yeah. But you know, we always say take a young dog, and the key to training, I tell people all this time, the key to our training really is all about socialization. It's put that dog around as many people and as many places as you can get it. Take it to the grocery store, take it to the, you know, all these pet stores let you take it, you know, Tractor Supply or PetSmart, all those pet stores, and, you know, take it to the park. You know, socialization is such a big key to training a dog. And then, you know, when we're training our dogs, most dogs are they are food driven. And it's easier to train a dog when they're food driven. And so we start our dogs out treat training. We'll just we don't use treats. We use their regular dog food. And, you know, in our talks and in our programs, we teach 4 fundamental truths. And this goes for training and it goes for our life too. The first truth that we teach is you got to love that dog. You know, the first thing we teach our dogs is that we love them. And why do we teach them that? Because God first loved us. So we bring that dog home and we give them unconditional love, no matter what they do. No matter if they chew up my wife's shoes, no matter if they chew up my girl's stuffed animals, I'm going to love that dog. And then we start teaching obedience. And so the first obedience command we teach is sit. So sit is so key for us because sit means focus. When I can get that dog to sit and to focus on me, then I can teach it other things. So that's the key, is to not only socialize them, but also teach them to sit to where they're focused on me. And they really may not be focused on me at first. They may be focused for the food that I have in my hand. But that's getting them to their eyes to look at me. And when I can lock eyes with that dog, then I can teach a lot of different things to just sit. And just the way I move my body, if I'm, you know, every dog kind of has we call it like their personal space. Like if you drew a line around them, I can teach that dog more if I'm in its personal space than I'm outside the circle. So when I step inside the circle, you'll see your dog make a different movement or something like that. That's when you know you're in that personal space of your dog, and that's where the training happens. Is when you're in close with that dog. And so they're focused on you. We teach them to sit. And then the other key thing is leash training. So we want all of our dogs to be very obedient on leash. If they're obedient on leash, then they're going to be obedient off leash. And so we teach them a lot of leash training, walking by our side. We call the word heel. We use the word heel. Heel means to walk by my side. And we translate it over to scripture. You know, it says in Isaiah chapter 30, it says, whether you go to the right or to the left, there's a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Well, that dog is listening for my voice. But there's going to be a lot of voices trying to speak into our lives. And we got to be able to discern the voice of God speaking into our lives through other people. And so when I can get that dog to walk on heel, whether when I'm on stage, I'll walk around in a circle. The dog can walk in a straight line backwards. He can walk in a circle backwards. It's all those things, teaching it to heel. And that's just being obedient on leash. And then the last thing we teach is trust. When do I let the dog off this leash? It's when I trust him. Proverbs says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll make your path straight. And so we have to put our trust in him. But I can't let that dog off leash unless he'll first know that I love him. Second, know that he'll sit and focus on me. Psalms 46:10 says, be still and know that he's God. So we have to be still. He's got to be still and focus on me, and then walk by my side. And then I can let him off leash and I trust him. But he knows that the leash is right there because we have that connection. We built that relationship together.
Yeah.
And so that all comes through socialization and spending time with them. When the pandemic hit, we didn't travel as much. And so we actually started kind of a training business where we would go to people's house and train them how to train their dog. Because the puppy boom happened during COVID because people were home and thought they wanted a puppy. And so then they got that puppy home and they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And so we started helping people train their own dogs.
Yeah.
I love training dogs, so I can talk all day about training dogs.
Yeah. No, we did like a puppy training class, I think at one of the pet stores. And my dog's name is Arlo. And so Arlo, he went through the training. He did really good. He's still very motivated by food. And he was doing really good at just staying by my side. So I could even hold the leash, but not connect it to his collar, and he would still stay with me. But there was one story, you were talking about trusting the dog. And there was one night, it was late at night. I think it was like after midnight, and the dog had to go outside to go potty. And so we walk outside, and I think he's going to just, go right there by the steps and then come back inside. And he turned and he saw a couple of deer in our yard. And he took off running through the yard, and he is barking, and and I'm like, oh no. And it's like after midnight, so I can't scream his name. So I'm like, I'm holding the leash in my pajamas, and I'm walking through the yard going, Arlo, Arlo. And I stood at the end of my driveway, like, I don't know what to do, because he ran far into the woods. And I just said, I kept calling and like, I don't know if I should go get a treat. Should I, what do I do? And so, you know what I thought of? The first thing I thought of was to pray. And so I said, God, yes. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get him. Will you please bring my dog home? And I waited. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to just go back inside and just wait. And all of a sudden I looked to my left, and Arlo was standing right beside me again. And wow. I just, that's awesome. I know. And so when you don't trust the dog, trust God is what I learned in that moment.
That's right. And that's exactly right.
Yeah. And he never gets off the leash again after midnight. So that's because there might be deer in the yard.
Well, the other thing we teach our dogs is the word no. We teach them no. No is super important. We tell people on stage, we have an illustration where we teach the word no to kids. And we tell kids that no is not a bad word. No is actually a word of love and a word of protection. We actually hide a snake on stage, not a real snake, but a fake snake on stage. No, we hide a fake snake on stage, and I'll throw one of their training bumpers over near the snake, and I'll send the dog, and then I'll yell the word no, and the kids all get like shocked because I yelled at the dog. I told them no. But I teach them that the word no is a word of love and protection. When your parents tell you no, or somebody tells you no, it's not because they don't want you to have fun, don't want you to do this. They want to protect you. But in the dog training world, the word no is really key because you're trying to protect them, but also you're trying to get them to say, say Arlo's chasing the deer, you can say the word no, and he would say, okay, I don't need to do that.
Okay, I need to learn this because I say no a lot, but he doesn't look at me. He responds to yes and to sit and to treat. So how do I get him to respond to no? How do we teach the dog that important word?
The way that we train is we are very positive reinforcement trainers. So the way we teach the word no is we'll have some stuff in the room, like stuff they can have and stuff they can't have. I don't know, one of my girls' stuffed animals. We've done this before. We don't want the dogs to chew up the stuffed animals. And so we catch them chewing on the stuffed animal. We tell them the word no, and we replace it with something they can have. And so it's a replacement training to where you're replacing the stuff they can't have with stuff they can have. But the key to that is you have to catch the dog in the act. So it's kind of like the potty training thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people were trying to potty train their dogs, and their dogs they would find it on the floor, and then they would try to correct their dog. The way the dog's brain works is it's real short-term memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to catch them in the act of doing that. And so catch them in the act of chewing the stuffed animal or chewing what they're not supposed to chew on. Because I mainly work with Labrador Retrievers. I actually breed Labrador Retrievers, and that's what I've always worked with. Because Labs love to chew and they love to dig. Mm-hmm. And so it's replacing it with something else.
Okay.
And the whole digging thing is we catch them in the act, and we'll reward them for not digging.
Okay. So it's all about positive reinforcement and replacing that thing.
Yes.
Okay. I'll have to remember that.
Yes. Yeah. And the dogs understand your tone.
Yeah.
Their sense of smell and their sense of hearing is like 10 times better than ours. And so they understand tone and they understand body movement and body language. Their sense of smell is 360 degrees. So they can walk in a room and they already smell everything in the room.
Wow.
And so it actually wipes out their senses. That's why my dogs are so tired all the time after all of our events, because they're smelling everybody in the room and everything.
Wow.
And so they just they're in the kennels right now.
Sleeping.
A couple of them are laying on the floor and they're just sleeping. That's all
That's good.
They're doing. So
they earned that nap. That's good. How many dogs do you have with you right now for the show?
I normally travel with 3 to 4.
Okay.
They're all labs. I have 2 black labs. I have my main dog, Lazarus, who I started my ministry with. All of my dogs have biblical names.
Okay.
All of their registered names are Bible verses.
I love that.
Because when we run competitions, like secular competitions, they call out their registered name as winners. And so we love for them to call out the Bible verses.
So, like, how would they say that? How, if they called out the winner is, and they would say what? We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
So like Lazarus is Philippians 1:20 is his Bible verse. And so they mess that one up all the time because they call it, you can tell if the judge is a believer or not, or knows anything about the Bible, because he'll say Philippines or something like that. And so Shiloh, which is my fox red Labrador Retriever, you met her at the conference. So she is a fox red. She has an incredible story. But her Exodus 14:14, it says the Lord will fight for you. And so that's her verse. And so they'll just call it like we'll be standing around at the ribbon ceremony for these competitions, and they call out each dog that's the winner or something like that.
Cool.
And they'll call out their Bible verses, so which is really cool.
That's awesome. So how many dogs do you have total, like at your house?
14.
What?
We have 14. So that's not counting the litter of puppies we had. They're not always at my house. Sometimes they spend time at other, what we call guardian homes, where they spend time there. Or they'll spend time out at our training facility where Sally, our pro trainer, puppy whelper, where she lives.
Okay.
And so they'll rotate out there to get breaks and stuff like that. So because life on the road with them, it gets wearing on them too. And so we try to give them breaks, and teach them different things and new things and things like that. So
that's awesome. Now, what does the word whelp mean? You said that.
Oh, okay. The whelp means take care of the puppies.
Oh,
so
okay.
the moms usually go out there about a week to 2 weeks before they're due, and she'll take care of the moms, introduce them to their box where they have the puppies at, which is called a whelping box. And then she takes care of their diet and all that kind of stuff. And then when she helps the moms birth the puppies, and then she'll take care of the puppies by helping the mom. The cool God thing about this is, like, this mom this is her first litter.
Mm-hmm.
She's never been around puppies. She didn't know anything about puppies. But when those puppies were born, she knew exactly what she was supposed to do. Now, tell me there's not a God in that.
That's right.
That she knew exactly what she was supposed to do as a first-time mom of this litter of 9. She had 9 puppies.
Wow.
Beautiful chocolate lab puppies. And Sally called me yesterday and said she's the best mom because she knows what to do. She knows how to take care of them. Like, she's never been a mom.
That's true for humans too. I think when we have kids, we think
before
we have kids, we're like, I don't know if I can handle this. But then when you do, it's just like something kicks in, and God, I think definitely God is in the middle of that. So that's so cool that we can see that
all the way.
So your ministry is called Extreme Obedience. Why did you name it that?
Really, we wanted something that could really reach into the public schools. We actually don't even have our real title of our ministry is Extreme Obedience. We don't even put the ministry on the end of it because we wanted the opportunity to reach into the public school system. My wife is a public educator of 20 plus years and just have a heart for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool model that God's really brought into place is we'll go into a town, do like this week, we're doing 7 public school programs that we did already. And then we're doing a big church outreach event tonight where we invite the kids to bring their parents back to see a different dog show. And so the reason we went with extreme is, I guess that's from my youth pastor days. I loved that kind of stuff, but just extreme obedience. I mean, because that's what God's asking us to do, is to go the distance. I mean, this is a post-Christian society, and what these kids are facing, and we're going to have to be extreme about our obedience to Him. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where that came from. And it's worked out really well. People misspell it all the time because we don't have the first E on the front. We just extreme obedience. And so, our school program is called Champions of Character. And so we have those two things running side by side.
That's cool. And I definitely see the youth group part of that. Extreme. That's good. I think the big thing about obedience that I've learned is that obedience is the outcome of our love for God. So when we just show love for God and see how much God loves us, we just want to obey. So it's not about we have to obey to earn God's love. Probably like how you care about these dogs, even if they don't obey, or even if they tear up your wife's shoes or whatever, you still love them. And then when they learn to obey, that's when they really get to reap the rewards. And it's the same with our relationship with God. We respond in obedience because of His love. Exactly.
And it's the same with our kids too.
Right.
I tell my girls all the time, I love you no matter what. And they're not always obedient. I make the joke sometimes my dogs are more obedient than my 2 girls, but I still love them no matter what. And I'm not going to stop loving them. And God's the same way. He's not going to stop loving us. He doesn't like what we do sometimes, but He still wants us to be obedient, and we want to be obedient to Him.
That's exactly right. So true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have learned a lot about your ministry, and I'm really grateful for you being here today and sharing about this. So thank you so much for doing this. And I'm really glad your dogs got a nap while we got to talk today.
Yes.
Before I let you go, will you just tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and your ministry and how they can see what you do live?
We have a website it's extremeobedience.com, spelled XTREME obedience.com.
Well, this has been so good, Justin. Thank you so much for sharing about this. And I love your ministry and what y'all are doing. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
I appreciate it.
That was such an amazing conversation with Justin. I loved learning about dog training and all the things that he has learned about God and his relationship through his relationship with his dogs. You can definitely tell that dogs mean a lot to him. And like he said, a dog saved his life when he was drowning in that lake. I thought that was such an incredible story. I love when he was talking about how they always try to teach 4 truths about training a dog. First, you have to love the dog. That's how they respond, is by love. And then obedience. You give them that food or that treat to teach them to focus on you. And then he talked about leash training, where you have to build that trust with that dog and train the dog to be on the leash, and then fully trust the dog so that the dog learns to fully trust you. And just like our relationship with God, it starts with love, and how we learn to love God and we focus on him, we obey him, and we trust in him. I think that's really cool how he tied that together. Justin talked a lot about how the dogs that he trains are not always obedient at every command, but he still loves them and he cares about those dogs. And that is very similar to how God relates to us. We might not always obey everything or do everything just right. We might not always trust God in every moment, but God still loves us and he cares about us no matter what. I just love that encouragement. I also love that Justin said no is not a bad word. It is a word of love. And so when God tells us no, when our mom or dad tells us no, it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a way to protect us or a way to teach us something new. And so we should see the word no as a word of love. I love that the dogs that Justin has have Bible names and their registered names are Bible verses. I think that's such a unique way to share your faith with other people and to show how important the Bible is. So if you'd like to check out those dogs' names and see their pictures, they're adorable. You can head over to extremeobedience.com and learn more about Justin and the dogs he performs and trains with. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. So here is a joke from my friend Henry.
What type of cheese is not yours? Nacho cheese.
Nacho cheese. That's a good one. That's a dad joke. I love that one. Thanks, Henry. Well, hey, if you would like to be on the podcast just like Henry was and share your favorite joke or maybe a song or a quote that you like or your favorite Bible verse, just head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the tab at the top that says Kids Only. Or you can also send it to me through my social media and find out more information there. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod, and I would love for you to follow me there as well. Hey, if you'd like to support the podcast, there's a few ways you can do that. First, be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast on your podcast app and leave a rating and review like we said at the beginning. It's so important. It really does help other people find out about the show. You can also share this episode with friends and family on your social media or through text message or through an email and tell them why you like to listen. And anytime you think about it, I really appreciate your prayer support as well. Well, I am so glad that you listened today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you get a chance to spend some time with your dog or your cat or your fish or your snake or whatever animal it is that you love. And in case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.